So I will stop presenting again.
And you can log in again. Or you can log out and log in again.
No, that's not the problem. Uh, is it visible now?
No, sir, no.
So there is some. Here it is showing I'm sharing. Now I don't know what is the. Yesterday we didn't have a problem.
Presentation টা আসুনি
প্রেজেন্টেশন টা প্রিন্ট করে পড়ে সেটা শো করছে না।
ওহো, তাহলে মোর কাই আসুনি তাহলে?
আচ্ছা আমরা আগে চেক করে দেখি।
আচ্ছা চেক করো। Just wait. Somebody is telling that it is coming in his computer. So let me verify it. Just wait. Sir, please make the presentation.
I am facing a problem. I don't know. I'm not able to solve. Yesterday we didn't have a problem.
Yes, yesterday. So have you logged out?
Sharing, but it's not coming on the screen.
Yes.
Okay. Now I will go to the presentation. It's only showing on my computer.
But why it is not coming? আসুনি তো আমার। আচ্ছা। ଏଠି ତ ମୁଁ ଦେଖିଲି ମିଟିଂ ଗେଷ୍ଟ ଯୋଉଟା
ତାଙ୍କୁ ଗୋଟେ ଟ୍ୟାଗ କରନ୍ତୁ।
हाँ अभी
हम्म।
start sharing क्या कर रहे हो
ବସି ସବୁ ଅଛି ଲେକିନ ଆଟେଣ୍ଡ ହିଁ କରିପାରିବେ ଆଟେଣ୍ଡ କଲେ ନର୍ମାଲ ପିଲାଙ୍କ ଭଳିଆ
check this click this हाँ then windows पे है हाँ this हाँ तो यहाँ दिख रहा है it is not going on to the system screen. I am not sure what is the problem. I can only see it on my computer. It's not going on the common place.
yes it is not coming.
ये वहाँ नहीं जा रहा.
Sir, you do one thing, you log out and then again log in. Let us see.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, yes, just good, just good.
Okay, I'll try sharing again.
Yes, please.
Screen share करो या window share करो? नहीं है. Share the screen. ये control करो. ये क्या?
हाँ कौन भाई हम कौन है इसे
इस जो
हाँ मैं के प्रेजेंटर भी ମୁଁ କରିଛି କାଲି ହଉଥିଲା ଗୋଟେ ମୁହୂର୍ତ୍ତରେ ହେଇଗଲା
तुम करते थे.
protocol don't name mention protocol ଆସିଲା ଏଇଟା
कुछ बात करेंगे.
Now it has come. Hello, sir, now it has come. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Sir, please be patient, sir. Just
Yes, but now it has come.
yes. So I will just set the mode correct so that
Yes, please change. More
इसमें control करें, इसमें
ଏଇଟା ଖାଲି ଆସିଗଲେ ତୁ ପଳେଇବୁ ୟୁଟ୍ୟୁବ ସେ କଣ କରୁଛୁ ମନୋରଥ ବୋଧେ
Okay, are you able to see properly, sir?
Yes.
But you can't see me. That's the only problem.
No. We are able to see you also.
Okay, wonderful. Then I will at this.
But your screen is not small. It is looking small. You are looking very big.
That is because I'm trying to play around with the. Let me just see the video settings.
Okay. Now it has come full screen, and you are also looking in the small window, so everything is working fine. So we'll start in another 1 minute. But now again the screen becomes small. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, is it okay now or only?
No, earlier it was okay. Now you are. Now it was okay. Now. Yes. This is okay. Perfect. This is perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So another 1 minute. So good afternoon to all of you. Today we have assembled here for the 57th SOAFAL oration, or the 7th oration of the SOAFAL-3 series, where the annual theme is Integrated Maritime Studies. And today's speaker is Commodore Dr. Johnson Oracle, Indian Navy retired, and he will be speaking on indigenous Indian shipbuilding tradition inspiring a green resurgence. So it is my privilege to brief the audience about the speaker. So Dr. Johnson Oracle has a very illustrious career spanning 7 pages, a long CV. So I will be just highlighting few important points about this speaker. Commodore Dr. Johnson Oracle, Indian Navy retired, is an internationally certified speaker, trainer, teacher, coach, and career guide. He is also an accomplished author of Timeless Weight, The Legacy of Royal Indian Navy in World War II, and several articles, papers, and compilations. With a career spanning over 3 decades in the Indian Navy, Dr. Johnson has held various positions of leadership, including Deputy Assistant Chief of Integrated Defense Staff for medium and short-term force structuring at Headquarters IDS New Delhi. He is also a distinguished academic, teaching at the Naval War College Goa and Gujarat National Law University, and serving on the Board of Studies for the Center of Maritime Security at the Central University of Gujarat. Dr. Johnson holds a PhD on effective governance of multilateral maritime military operations and an MPhil in maritime operations and international relations from the College of Naval Warfare. He is a graduate of Defense Services Staff College, India's Military Command and Staff College, and holds master's degrees in Defense and Strategic Studies and Nautical Science and Tactical Operations. As an honorary adjunct fellow at the National Maritime Foundation and a founding member of Indian Legal History Association, Dr. Johnson is a leading expert in multidisciplinary studies, particularly in the areas of maritime security, governance, and international relations. His expertise and contributions have been recognized internationally as a speaker and coach. So before briefing the audience about the talk, let me just um, read out a voyage scale from 1980 to 2023 of this illustrious, distinguished today's speaker, Commodore Dr. Johnson Oracle. From 1980 to 1986, Global Maritime Education, Training and SCI. From 1987 to 1989, Indian Navy, Ab Initio Naval Operations Training, multidisciplinary graduate level. 1990 to 1998, Navy Operations Level, Operations Roles and Ship Training Officer. 1999 to 2007, Indian Navy mid-level executive leadership roles in operations and whole team training. 2008 to 2021, Indian Navy senior level institutional leadership director at Government of India. Assignments covering behavioral studies, course structuring, education and training. From 2021 to 2023, enterprise, knowledge, growth, life, navigation and career guidance. So about the talk. The Indian shipbuilding industry boasts a rich and diverse history with expertise in constructing vessels that are eco-friendly and sustainable. This talk, titled Indigenous Indian Shipbuilding Tradition Inspiring a Green Resurgence, aims to highlight the various facets of India's indigenous shipbuilding practices and explore their potential to inspire green and sustainable maritime solutions. The talk will cover traditional boat building techniques, including case examples from Mandavi in Gujarat, Baipur in Kerala, Bengal indigenous shipbuilding, and legacy of the Wadia master craftsmen at Bombay Dockyard. A 20th century transition will present the story of Hindustan Shipyard and Mazagon Docks Limited. The session will highlight the Maritime India Vision 2030 on shipbuilding to flag the importance of harnessing Indian coastal communities and their green traditions to create a sustainable future for the maritime industry. As I am understood, this is the first lecture on a trilogy of lectures that will be delivered by Commodore Dr. Johnson Oracle. He is kind enough in consenting to deliver these lectures. So before the platform belongs to Dr. Johnson Oracle, I will request our Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Pradipta Kumar Nanda, to kindly address the audience. Sir. Vice Chancellor, sir, are you present? Just wait, sir, for 1 minute. I think he will be connecting.
Sure, sure.
Okay, probably he is unable to connect, sir. So I think I will request Commodore Saab to kindly address the audience. So he will be speaking for 40 minutes to 45 minutes, and there will be a question answer at the end of the talk. Sir.
Thank you so much, Professor Nachiketa Sharma ji, for your kind words. Greetings, everyone. Chairperson Shiksha Anusandhan, the Vice Chancellor, heads of faculty and various schools of this amazing family of academic excellence that is Shiksha Anusandhan. I must begin by acknowledging that it was just about 8 months ago that for the Dhara series by the Indian Knowledge System of Ministry of Culture and Education, Shiksha Anusandhan had hosted many of us, and I had the privilege to be present in the campus at the time of the Bali Jatra, the iconic event for on Kartik Purnima on the Mahanadi River. So it's a just continuing honor to be associated with this amazing institution. But allow me to go on to what I have in plan for us. The Indian maritime journey conceptually began around 100 million years ago as a piece of land broke off from Gondwana and sailed across what is today's Indian Ocean to crash into the Eurasian plate and form the most dominating feature, which is the Indian subcontinent, or rather the Indian peninsular mass. Over a period of time, it built a rich tradition combining an agricultural lifestyle along with a quest for the sea in terms of fishing and sailing and seafaring. It is very clear and understood that the Indian maritime tradition dates a few thousand years, in fact, 3,000 years before the Common Era. Subsequently, we know of the Harappa Saraswati civilization and the way it had connections to various components across the traditions. And in this, I have a very personal interest. I have been a lifelong learner and a student, and now I would say an advocate for Indian maritime consciousness. And on the slide are two visuals that indicate the spectrum of my interest in terms of nautical knowledge, which runs across a range of content and depicted by a Kutchi navigational chart on the west coast, which is a very representational chart. And the visual below is a reed boat of the Harappan civilization. You know, the reed boat is very fascinating. Its buoyancy is unique. It is made of reeds, which is in the Indic Delta. They have to be cut at the correct season, otherwise they will not be buoyant. They're bundled together, tied, and in that process they become prepared into a boat. And that has a unique buoyancy where water can seep through, but the boat still remains buoyant. Today in South America and a few places, reed boats still exist, and that's how we are able to get a certain amount of contemporary knowledge. So with that, I want to progress to the main content, which is the Indian shipbuilding. And I want to go straight, even at the cost of sounding technical, into certain unique features of the indigenous shipbuilding, which is reflective of sustainability, environment, and many eco-friendly practices which are unique to India. The first one is traditional Indian shipbuilding historically has relied on natural material such as wood, coir, coconut fiber, natural resins, and these materials are renewable, biodegradable, and have a much lower environmental impact compared to later day synthetic alternatives. The second is the selection of wood. So we are basically talking of wood shipbuilding. We are not talking of the industrial revolution and later period in this talk. Indian shipbuilders possessed expertise in selecting the right type of wood, considering factors such as durability, resistance to marine organisms, and sustainability. Some of the common wood species were like the Malabar tea, later days using the Malaysian kung, and also certain other woods like sal and other lengthy woods that can be seasoned and used to advantage. Third is, you have to join the various parts to form. It doesn't become a ship or a boat automatically. And Indian shipbuilders use natural fiber sealants, such as coir mixed with natural resins like cashew nut shell liquid to seal the gaps and joints in the hull. These natural sealants provide very effective water resistance, while at the same time they minimize the use of synthetic chemicals. And continuing on the concept of joining, Indian shipbuilders also had traditional joinery techniques. It involved, in some cases, interlocking wooden planks without the extensive use of metal fasteners or adhesives. This approach reduces the use of non-biodegradable material and simplified repair and recycling processes. While I will show in a later slide one particular tradition of joinery, which was the concept of stitch ship. And as I mentioned when I visited Shiksha Anusandhan last year, the project for the stitch ship was announced with friend Sajeev Sanyal and the Indian Navy and the Indian Knowledge Systems. And that will come up. Very unique because it allowed the ships to be flexible, be beach, and cater for the catering for being hoisted on during the change of tide or when they had to be done with repairs. Next, on point number 5, we come to handcrafted sails. So traditional Indian ships like the dhows and the urus often featured handcrafted sails classically made from natural fiber like cotton or jute, and these sails are renewable and they required less energy intensive processes compared to modern synthetic sails. I must also, on a side, say most of the traditional shipbuilding use square sails, and in the Indian tradition, the lateen or the triangular sail comes much later in the medieval period. Going further, I've just written this one bullet called Wind, Tide, and Currents, but I can give a complete talk on it. And I think if I continue the series, we are going to be talking of climatology currents in a future lecture. Historically, Indian ships have harnessed the power of wind for propulsion, reducing reliance on natural means such as the wind for propulsion. And so it did not use what is today used as fossil fuels. So I already mentioned about the square and lateen sails. So Indian shipbuilders and sailors also had very extensive knowledge of tides. There is a very famous paper by the renowned Sardar K.M. Panikkar in the 40s, which I had the privilege to study, which talked about the knowledge of tides. And shipbuilding as a tradition followed a lunar cycle of either one lunar or two lunar cycles. What I mean by that is that during the high water, when the water would come in, the boat would be launched and they would sail. And at minimum, they would come back after 4 weeks at the next high tide cycle. And then the boat would be in the high water, come in, pulled aboard. As the water retreated, they would shore it up by planks, do unloading of the cargo, do repairs to the boat, and in the period when the next high water would come, it would be ready to be launched all over again. So we are talking of, before Common Era, extensive understanding of tides and the factors that built in to make tides. We also knew about the currents and the oceanic movement in the Indian Ocean region. We know of the two monsoon periods. We just now have had the southwest monsoon hit the Kerala coast, and meanwhile it will come towards the eastern part a bit later, And then, as I mentioned, at Kartik Purnima, the monsoons change. And the Indian mariners and the Indian shipbuilders use this to advantage to a great extent. The next element in the Indian shipbuilding is the factor of community. Indian shipbuilding was always a community-based activity. It involved the participation of skilled artisans, carpenters, local workers, and each element would be made by a particular family or a particular guild. And I will be talking with some actual pictures that I have taken later in my case examples. And this was an ecosystem. I'm mentioning ecosystem because shipbuilding is that industry which does not just remain by itself, but spawns a complete ecosystem of industries where there are many sub guilds, sub manufacturers who come together to make a ship. And the final point in this indigenous shipbuilding concept, which is across all the cases that I'm going to mention, is the knowledge transfer. You know, Indian shipbuilding practices have been handed over from generation to generation, ensuring the continuity of traditional knowledge. The transmission of these skill and techniques supported sustainability of the crafts work and maintaining these practices. Just as an example, uh, I learnt of this and then I asked the Mestris in Bepur, the way a boat would be built, there is no design, there is no drawing, but there is a poem or a song, and the Mestri would sing the song, and in the lines of the song were the concepts of the design at each stage. So that's one of the most unique cultural practices that continue the craftsmanship. So preserving and incorporating these indigenous practices is a possibility, and I'll talk about this as we go forward in the modern shipbuilding processes, which can build a sustainable industry. Coupled with advancements in technology and renewable energy resources, it can improve the climate friendly practices. And now I will go on to my three case histories. So, the Indian coast, today, by the way, I'm going to talk only of three boats or three traditions. But the Indian coast is lined with a host of traditions. And I am very proud to have the legacy to have been given the honor to have been in the Maritime History Society as a director for 6 years. Because many years before I joined, then curator Commander Unitan, the academic advisor Professor Arunachalam, and the founder of MHS, Admiral Avati, they made trips to some of these boat building yards. And I've taken this image, of course, from Bepur, just shows the beauty of craftsmanship that Indian maritime industry, tradition that goes back to the Indus Valley and has built with local flavors and variants into various places. And so today we look at Mandvi in Gujarat, Bepur in Kerala, and the Bengal boat building tradition. So that brings me to Mandvi in Gujarat. Now, Mandvi is a strategically important town located on the banks of the river Rukmati in Kutch. Historically, it was a town of boat makers, fishermen, and merchants due to its location on a trade route that connected Africa, the Gulf, and the Makran coast. The port town of Mandvi began to emerge as a mix of cosmopolitan and traditional urban settlement from the 16th century when it really grew as a shipbuilding industry. And thereafter, the craft of shipbuilding continued to be passed orally. In the present shipbuilding tradition, it's more than 5 centuries old. And you have the example, the image on the right side. These seagoing vessels known as kotia are built completely by hand. Very rarely in the modern days, sometimes for smoothing, they may use electric drills. The big rough planks of wood may initially appear indefined and irregular, but the process of craftsmanship uses weights, heat, and the water as it's soaked to slowly be bent. And the construction starts from bottom up, starting with a frame to support the and shape the boat it would take. And as I mentioned, that is the Rukmati River with a Google image on the left, and on the right is a nearly completed boat. So one by one, these big planks of wood are bent to support over fire, and then as are fitted with large size nuts and bolts. An average boat can be up to 50 feet high, take more than 200 feet long, carry up to 1,000 tons of cargo, can take from 9 months to 2 years to be built. In modern times, cost it could go as much as a few crores, and that's the challenge. Now, the basic material has not changed, but it is still, uh, but it is declining as an industry. So Mandvi boats show the example of a tradition. But I remember a few of my team members when I was at Maritime History Society had visited Mandvi, and the senior craftsman was lamenting, "My children are not following into the tradition. I don't know after I'm gone who will continue building this." And that's one thing that I'm highlighting. They are an amazing tradition. They can be used in many ways, and I believe the state governments should incorporate that into many of the usages that they can do even today. And then from uh, Mandvi in Gujarat, we are going to move to Kerala. So the Urus of Bepur in Kerala. By the way, these are my actual images. I am showing you only 2 slides, but I can share you much more of a story. There is a little personal connect with Bepur. My father, Oracle Mohammed Master, comes from hardly 20 kilometers south of the Chaliam River in a town called Kondoti in the district of Malappuram in Kerala. And he had talked about Chaliam. Chaliam is literally on the sea end. Chaliam River starts from Nilambur, and the Nilambur forest has the Malabar tea. And my father used to tell this tradition of people used to go and purchase a log, a large tree, cut it, engrave it with their symbol and sign, and that would be sailed down the Chaliam River. And when they would come down, people will draw it close, and depending on whose marking was it would be passed on to them. And so, in December of 2021 was my last visit to Chaliam. In the left boat is one of the Mestris, and that's my wife Vinita on that. And then on the right is Hashim Bhai, the owner of the yard that I went to, and we had a great conversation. So you see this boat which is nearly complete. So this tradition dates more than 1500 years, could be even longer. And Uru is again a wooden ship. The cargo capacity is almost of 500 tons, and they were used for trade. Customers for the boats came from Western Asia. Today, the Uru construction survives only because of orders from Qatar and UAE. Now, modern Uru makers, of course, use simple machines, and they also use nails. Earlier, it was not there. But the actual craftsmanship is a guarded secret that is passed from generation to generation. Like right now, there may be less than a dozen people who actually know the art of making the Uru. But a full-time Uru requires more than 30 to 50 skilled workers. The work is very painstaking, it takes very long. Again, there are no drawings. I told you about the song, the Mestri song, and selecting good quality wood. Today, you're not allowed to cut the wood from Malabar. So they import wood from Malaysia and Myanmar and in Chaliam. So the entire process, and by the way, so on the left is, by the way, a model. It is not an actual boat. It was used for display at the UAE festival. And on the right, you see this is a close-up image of what I was telling about the stitch ship. So this is coir, the sealant is there, and the planks are joined by stitched. The plank connect is in between. And I purposely zoomed in to see this because learning about is different, seeing it is very different. So this whole process of making the urus, each person from Bepur or the Chaliam River element upholds with great pride and honor, and there is a sparkle in the eye and twinkle when they talk of these glorious years of ore. As I said, the royal families in UAE and Qatar have taken interest in the Bepur Guru, and you know what? Once it finishes, the Mistri has to run around. Hashim Bhai was telling, run around to get a modern approval for it to be considered seaworthy. They will fit a Kirloskar engine. They will do some basic interior or the cabin, and that with that Kirloskar engine, the Uru, which is partly made, sails to Dubai. In Dubai, the engine is removed and thrown away, and they fit another Rolls Royce engine, and then the interior, top level, world class interior designers come and take over, and they make a very modernized Uru, but which is still carrying the spirit of its traditional avatar. Now, I was left spellbound. This was not my first visit. I visited the Bepur yard about 3 times, and I said, I wish the average Indian knew about it. Kerala government has taken some initiatives, and Shankar Mestri is involved in the IKS, Indian Knowledge System, and the Indian Navy's combined project to build a large stitch ship. So probably the tradition will be maintained and it will continue. So, do a sustainable future. It is very important that we continue this research, collaborate with industry experts, government bodies, help identify these innovative solutions for building these boats. With that, I will come to something that is more recent knowledge, which is the traditional boatyards of Bengal. Now, I knew about it, but I must thank a very dear friend, Professor Sarup Bhattacharya. He also had spoken at the Dhara conference in November last year, and he has been very kind to share his content with me, and that's what I'm going to talk to you. So this is not my research, but this is Sarup, and please follow him. They are doing some wonderful project called the Chot boats. Okay, Chot boats ruled the rivers of West Bengal uh, before they gradually turned into having motorized boats. You know what? Chot, and I don't know Bengali, but it says chot means run. And these chots were like cutters that could cut through the waters, even deep waters with high speeds. Now, we don't have historical records to see how old this tradition is, but it is considered definitely maybe even up to 1,000 years old. The first recordings that we have shows a very unique left to right downward sloping planking held together by iron staples and rivets, and that is in a painting by a Flemish painter F.B. Sovlins when he published his book on India in 1799. Indian ships, other designs which are available from temple carvings or of royal barges and decorative craft. Of course, that doesn't show a lot of the detailed engineering and usage in navigation. The V-shaped structure of the chort gave it the ability to navigate even the high waves of the seas. Therefore, they were used by the traders along the coasts. It was fast, it could cut through, and it is said that the boats may have been used for military purposes too. Traditionally, almost it would take 40 days for 5 craftsmen to build a chot from identifying and getting the wood to finishing the wood. People do recall that old chots were made of sal and teak, but today they make do with wood from the Kirish, Arjun, and the Babla trees. There's this wonderful gentleman called Pachanan Mandal, and he's one of the last traditional makers of the chot boat. It has been more than 30 years since he has been involved in the work. And he says this: we use neem wood for the mast, and different kinds of wood are used for the different parts of the boat. We pray to the wood and then cut it on size. We heat the wood on a fire and then start joining the pieces. First the mast and the base, then heat goes on. Swarup Bhattacharya says these boat builders have amazing engineering skills. They these days we are taught these skills in premier institutes and engineering and learn from books. But the rustic artisans displayed this engineering feat for centuries. There is record that modern the ancestors of the modern humans may have journeyed by these crafts, crossing from Red Sea and sailing up the Bay of Bengal before arriving off the Odia coast. And there is another line where someone mentioned these boats may have been invented before the wheel. I don't know about that. But many of the native boats have disappeared. The price of sal and teak are astronomical. And though they are very different in design from the Europe's Viking boats, but they have been used and they are now finding a new wave of life. I could go on about the chot boat, but let me talk about two more traditions within the Bengal boat. On the right is a work in progress of the Balagad boatyard, which is a small village in West Bengal on the banks of the Hooghly, which is slightly north of Kolkata. And the boat builders of Balagad use a variety of tools and techniques to create their boats for a variety of purposes, including fishing, transportation, and tourism. The boat building tradition of Balagad again is many centuries old. Initially, they were made from bamboos and reeds, but then the builders started using planks of wood. And as usual in that region, salwood was the most popular. It is very complex. The first step, they identify the correct tree, cut them into fell the tree, cut them into the desired shape. It is dried and seasoned. Once the wood is ready, the boat builders take that single piece of wood for important parts like the deck planks, the mast, and then the other portions start. Now, these boats are still sturdy and reliable, and they can last for many years. But the boat building tradition in Balagad is facing challenges, including decline in demand. Who will order a wooden boat when you get a plastic and fiberglass boat much cheaper? And younger people are not interested in learning the trade. Similarly, the Patia boat on the left, and I only have a design here, is a traditional boat that has also been in this. It's a clinker designed boat with hull planks overlapping each other like scales of a fish. And this is very strong and durable, very popular for fishing boats and coastal transportation. It is used for religious festivals and processions, again made from salboard and typically painted black with tal. As I mentioned about the chort boat and the design in the previous slide, I'll just go back for a minute on the right. You know, courtesy the state government and people like Swarup Bhattacharya and Pachanan Mandal, there is a boat being built for the British Museum, and that is it. I talked about Qatar, I'm talking about the British Museum. And through this talk, I'm hoping to inspire a tradition where, like Admiral Avti used to say, we will give the place that these boats deserve. Now, allow me for a few minutes to to transition out from the traditional craft. And this is now more of the 19th century. You know, by 19th century, India had already been colonized, even though it was the East India Company. And I have the fresco of the Mumbai harbor, and there was this amazing shipbuilding tradition on the west, which we talked of Mandavi. Shipbuilding was being controlled by Surat, and it was mainly the Parsi carpenters. And so the Englishmen decided that they will invite the Parsi carpenters to Bombay dockyard, where they were doing the repairs and construction of boats. And the most famous carpenter who later became the master shipbuilder was Lavji Nasarwanji Wadia. And that is the legacy of the Bombay dockyard for more than 250 years. Lavji started building ships in 1736. Then the tradition was passed down through generations of the Wadia family. Of course, not anymore. Wadia family last was involved in the Go First Airlines with its tradition, but the logo and the crest in the Go First and the Bombay Dyeing has the design of a boat, talking about their tradition. So during the colonial era, the Bombay Dockyard built boats, including the famous HMIS Trincomalee, which is sailing even, which is afloat even today in England. And so we come to the more modern shipbuilding saga. Today, two of the historically traditional private owned to now the PSU is the story of the Hindustan Shipyard and the Mazgaon docks. The Hindustan Shipyard was started in 1941 as the Sindhya Steam Navigation Company's yard by the visionary Seth Walchand Hirachand, and he selected Vishakhapatnam as a strategic and ideal location, purchasing the land in 1940. World War II was going on, and though in 1941 Japanese bombed the town, but the process continued, and Dr. Rajendra Prasad on 21st June 1941 finally laid the foundation stone. It was the first. The work was then finally commissioned in 1948 by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister. Later, of course, this has now become Hindustan Shipyard Limited. By 19 Government of India acquired it and made it Hindustan Shipyard Limited on 21st January 1952. From 1961, it's become a fully owned PSU it's under has as a strategic shipyard. It continues to be housed in Vishakhapatnam. It's a great matter of pride that one of my shipmates is the chairperson and one of my batchmates is the director of strategic projects. So Hindustan Shipyard continues to provide great service to the nation. Has built, worked with more than 200 vessels, repaired over 2,000 vessels, built 200 vessels, refitted 5 submarines. More than 2,000 tons of steel can be processed per month. It's got, and as a modern shipyard, it is really growing in leaps and bounds. And on the right is an image of the Mazgaon dockyard. They call themselves the shipbuilders to the nation. And it's one of leading defense public sector undertakings under the Ministry of Defense. It has the capacity to build warships, submarines. They're just in the finishing stages of the 6 ships of the Scorpion class, but they have built even merchant ships up to 40,000 deadweight tons. And MDLS constructed India's, by the way, HSL constructed INS Ajay, India's first Indian indigenous ship. Long back, before Atmanirbharta was coined, Indian Navy has been at the forefront of indigenous shipbuilding. In the Leander project, Nilgiri was built by the Mazgaon docks, and they have not looked behind. They did the modification of the Taragiri and the Vindhyagiri. They built the Godavari class, the Kukris, and the Brahmaputra class, which of course then some work was done with GRSE. Today, it's a pride, actual pride of the nation. Okay, the P-15A destroyers, Kolkata, Kochi, Chennai, and now you have the 4 starting from the Vishakhapatnam class. It's an amazing journey, and they have continued this great purpose. Having built this story, let's see what lies ahead. And I'm almost about to complete. So the Maritime India Vision 2020 was enunciated a couple of years ago. It's a 10-year blueprint for the development of India's maritime sector. It was released on November 2020 by the then Minister of Ports and Shipping, Mansuklal Mandviya, who had done a great amount of work in putting this together. It supersedes the Sagarmala initiative. The objectives are to enhance India. I'm selectively taking objectives. Some of the objectives related to shipbuilding are to enhance indigenous shipbuilding capabilities, reduce dependence on imports, develop world-class shipbuilding infrastructure, skill development, attracting investment into Indian shipbuilding. As per the Maritime India Vision document, India aims to become fully Atmanirbhar in shipbuilding, repair, and recycling. Not just shipbuilding, ship recycling in Alang and in Bombay, it has closed. It's now still the largest, but then there are new traditions that are new mechanisms and conventions that are creating challenges. So the aim is that India will become one of the top shipbuilding nations of the world, and we will produce, including others, ocean, coastal, and become a cruise hub. So if you are into the maritime industry, this is a Maritime India Vision document. I'm just introducing it. You must read about it. And with that, I want to share what is my encouragement to you. This is my second last slide. So I believe the convergence of green shipbuilding, indigenous traditions, and coastal community integration is the best way forward to bring a green resurgence in Indian shipbuilding. This strategy has three pillars. First is to sustain planet ocean. Arthur Haley said we call it Earth when most of this planet is ocean. We need to make sure that our shipbuilding practice does not harm the ocean or increase waste and minimizes pollution. There are many ways we can do this. We can use more recycled material. We can reduce by having efficient manufacturing processes and much more. So sustain planet ocean. Second is coastal communities have a wealth of knowledge and experience that can be used to make shipbuilding more sustainable. They know the local environment and the traditional ways. We need to involve these communities in planning and implementation. When Sports Authority of India had to improve India in archery, they went to the Bhil tribes and got people from there and trained them. The same way we can take the traditional shipbuilding programs, train people in the modern techniques and the traditional structure, and help them to build sustainable ships. This will create jobs, preserve culture, and protect the environment. Finally, combine tradition with modernity. We don't have to always build 500,000 ton ultra large crude carriers. We can always, in the Indian milieu, we should build maybe 40,000 ton merchant ships, 20,000 tons, and mix techniques, learning the science and technique of the traditional Indian shipbuilding, and have not just conventional buoyancy, but even see-through buoyancy. Shipbuilders will probably understand, and that will build the zero emission target that India has committed, and shipbuilding will go. Some additional thought: government support is mandatory, and they are promoting it. It's in the vision document. Industry collaboration is essential, and we must raise public awareness. I hope this talk does some purpose and good. I believe that I hope that I have been able to serve you by sharing some of my learnings and knowledges that I have acquired over a period of time. I am not a naval constructor, but I am a mariner who believes in India's shipbuilding resurgence, and I believe there's a green resurgence, and we will combine these concepts to make this possible. I have completed. I'll be happy to stay in touch, including answer some questions. I will stop sharing in a minute, and but then just leave my contact details before I shift, and I'll request Professor Nachiketa to just facilitate if there are questions. But let me just stop sharing, and so over to you, sir.
Thank you, Commodore Sam. Thank you so much for such a beautiful talk. Actually, there will be many questions. Actually, I will initiate the questions and then we'll take a couple of questions. So now my point is that we were a seafaring nation, definitely. Otherwise, 1,000 years back, we should not have sailed to Borneo, Sumatra, Java, and all these things. How do you do? How such a glorious tradition, and where are the people? Where are the techniques? And though this doesn't fall under your topic, but this has ignited my interest because I just wanted to know what happened to so glorious such a tradition. Where are the people? Where were the shipbuilders? Where is the community? Did they take to different kind of profession? So how it declined? Can you just throw some light on it, sir?
Thank you for the question. You are asking something that was always very close to Admiralty, and we have also talked about. People talk about the ills of sea blindness, but let me first give you something which is a very different answer. We have never lost the tradition. The fact that somebody is building a Bepur Uru or a Balagarh boat tradition with 1,000-year-old design, that means the tradition is alive. But for a population of 1.4, billion, only a few people even know about it. That we have this, and it is being built because somebody from outside India is ordering the boat. So it's not that tradition has vanished. It is that there are many factors to it. So let me talk about some of them. Till about the 12th century, India's GDP was the largest in the world. We have talked about it all. We not just talked about Sone Ki Chidiya, we were genuinely, our GDP was the highest. And then comes a place where when we stop looking seaward, one more point before that. You know who funded the maritime industry? The temples of South India were the main, like venture capitals. It's not the kings. The king didn't have that much kind of money, but the temples had the money. They would give the money to the mariner. They would go sailing. In the sailing would be a priest. There would be cultural people. They would sail to various parts. They would come back, make a lot of more money, and give it back to the temple. It is like a very profitable venture. But somewhere around the 12th, 13th century, one of the doubts that people like Sanjeev Sanyal and probably I partly agree is that when many of the attacks started happening from north, and there was this fear that the sea is inherently a very risky place. So the more we go out, we will be in danger. And then the attention to the sea declined. And Samudra Ulangana as a concept was brought in. If you cross the sea, you will lose your caste. By the way, even earlier, the high caste never went to sea. Like all crafts work, all the even today the mallas are not very high caste. We know Lord Ram finally literally blesses, he takes permission and crosses on a boat. So the seafarers have always been subaltern. But they said if you cross the sea, you'll lose your caste. Indians never stopped crossing the sea. We went to Fiji, we went to Guyana, we went to South Africa, we went to Mauritius. And Indians today are the Indians are, and we're not talking of like an Indian being Prime Minister of Britain or Scotland or one of those places. The fact is, or Ireland to be more precise, Indian origin. We occupied the places because we went by sea. But around 12, 13, when Indian rulers reduced their interest towards the sea, then the Arabs, who were seafarers even before Islam was initiated, they took over. The Chinese who were sailing, like famous people like Zhanga, they started sailing. And lesser Indians went to the sea, except the beautiful place called Calicut, where it was a tradition of coming together. Then colonization really killed us. Because after that, only a few, diehard patriots and venturers continued the tradition. Thankfully, the Indian Navy and the shipping corporation and some of these have continued studying it, promoting it, and I believe with the attention from the Dara and with what you had the conference at Shiksha Anusandhan, we believe there is genuine maritime resurgence that will happen. That's why Prime Minister makes the policy Sagar, security and growth for all in the region. And one of them is sharing knowledge and technology. So I know it's a separate talk altogether, but I thought we had a problem, but we have not given up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Now we have a questions from Manorat Jaydev. Manorat, you can ask your question. Manorat, you unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, sir. Good question.
Uh,
Sir, as I saw one of your slides, it
So that safe, so as we know that in today's world, basically, we're mainly focusing on environment rather than only just in technologies. So, if a building sits, so when how sustained are they? So that is my first question. And so as we have seen many such videos of oil dumping in the oceans by some ships when they they're in some problem or something like that, they dump some oil in the ocean water only. In surface, we can see whole oil contained in the surface. So that endangers the aquatic life and also. So, sir, how can they be tackled in this? If we are going for a new generation of that?
Thank you, Manorat ji, for your question. I'll tackle the second one first, even though it doesn't appear to be, it's a very different topic. But then recently, I've been with the Gujarat Maritime University and I was taking a class on marine perils. Firstly, willful dumping is out of the question. It will be a giveaway when the ship arrives. It will be fined astronomically. International regulations, marine pollution regulations prohibit any dumping of oil at sea. It is not to say, so most of the oil pollution happens when there is an accident, when there is a damage, or there is an accident when they are transferring fluids and fuels and someone didn't operate and an overflow happens. So there is no intentional, it's mostly accidental. Marine pollution itself is a huge subject. Yeah, I by the way, if you kind of follow my on World Ocean Day on 8th, I put out a blog. I'll share it with Professor Nachiketa sir. In fact, he has it. It gives a brief idea of what are the threats we face. But the world community is taking note of it. The oceans are under threat, and it is irreversible damage that happens. Coming back to your key question when it comes to what about shipbuilding practices? In the modern shipbuilding practice, it's like any other industry. It's like a steel factory. So if you're not careful, if you're applying certain kind of paints, if you're not doing proper waste management, you will cause pollution of the coastal areas, which is even worse. So that is exactly why shipbuilding has to be a sustainable. There are codes and conventions that are adopted. Practices have been defined. We talked of ship recycling in Alang in Bhavnagar district in Gujarat. And at one time, they should just randomly just cut the ship. But today, there is a code. There is a Hong Kong code, and you cannot. And that is creating problem because ships are 30, 40 years old. You have asbestos, you have other residual oils in a tank, and that will pollute. So there are new norms being imposed. So greater awareness, better practices, funding support, and better education is essential. The planet cannot afford unsustainable practices. It's not a NGO fad which talks of Greenpeace movement, which talks about pollution and other problem. It's a genuine problem, and that's why green shipbuilding is the norm that India has chosen. That our shipbuilding practices will be more eco-friendly. So I hope that partly helps, but I would be happy to connect and share more in a different context.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question or just stay in touch? I just for a minute just put the slide back. I mean, you're most welcome. I am a very strong advocate of maritime consciousness, though I am uh, shifting my teaching focus, but I'm always available in case you are there. So that's it. Professor Sharma. I think you are on mute, Professor Sharma.
Oh, sorry. So the question is like this, sir. How effective is it to build ships indigenously in comparison to adapting to the foreign technology, such as the Russian warship Tushil?
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that question. I need to look a bit more, but let me put it. Will a wooden craft built on the tradition match with a modern composite material steel? May not be. It might be economical to build a more modern ship. But the point is, the science and technology of the traditional shipbuilding, the bending movements, the design component, like the concept of the stitch, are methods that the IITs and engineering institutes which are involved in construction and naval construction can examine. And while we should promote some of these boats, for example, your tourism, why can't a tourist boat or why can't the state government's boat be built on the indigenous boat and you hold a meeting on it? Okay, if you are doing certain river crossing, you can have modern, but over short periods of time. The other way is give it an handloom industry standard. Textile is handloom standards, but shipbuilding of dhows and kotias and the short boats or the urus, they don't have stamps. And why not? Like the Indian Navy has a tradition of sail ships. We have the tall ships, Tarangini and Sudarshani. We have the smaller craft, the Made, the Tarani, Bulbul, and they are used for training. I'm sure with government funding, like not just in Russia but others, you can have a sample ship for the promotion as an iconic figure, like the Royal Yacht of Oman is completely made of wood. Okay, so in that sense, we can promote Indian shipbuilding through promotion so the art does not die out. Like today, you do not continue to use old methods of building a house. You have modern construction, but you still continue the tradition and design, and that is studied by conservation architects and constructors, and that is the policy that can continue. So I hope that provides some answers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. You will be very happy to know that the next lecture is by Commodore Somen Banerjee. He will be speaking on evolving international order and maritime trade. And then it is by Swarup Bhattacharya, Bengal Maritime Technology Living Tradition. Okay. And sir, actually there is one more question, as you know, because we will be creating a center of excellence for integrated maritime studies, and that was when the Dhara conference was organized here. We had a talk with our president, and Anuradha madam also talked in that line. So integrated maritime studies, we are actually involving blue economy, sea security, green shipbuilding, maritime consciousness, international order and maritime trade, international law of the sea. So what are the other areas? Maybe I will write because the time is a constraint. So I will be writing a email to you so that you can also put some other aspects. So that will be under integrated maritime studies, so that it will cover a whole spectrum. And then we will also invite lectures. And then at the end of all these 25 lectures, as I have mentioned, this will be compiled into a very good reference book. And we will also have a national or an international seminar so that we can include the state government and all these people. So accordingly, with that hope, actually, I am organizing this series of lectures. So I am extremely happy and thankful and grateful to you, sir. And the last thing is that I just want to have that Indian Maritime Vision 2023 documents. So
I will trust you.
okay,
I will
so
trust you. It is available online, but I
okay.
have a downloaded copy. I will mail it to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind presence and giving us time. On behalf of the university, I am extremely thankful and grateful to you, sir. Namaste.